And before I even start, you know, in America, today is a big day for us. It's Valentine's Day. So I wish you a happy Valentine's before we start, before
Yeah,
we
same
start with
here.
the meeting.
Same here.
Okay.
It's Valentine's Day.
It's Valentine's Day. Okay, it's big. I hope you got something for your wife or your significant other.
Yes, definitely.
Otherwise,
Definitely.
otherwise
Otherwise,
you won't find in Shima.
this yes, that's true. That is something one cannot ignore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go through
Mm.
this, and I want to thank you very much for being on this call. I'm going to go through this presentation, and because it's just you, I'm going to offer up you ask questions as we move along. I want to start by
Okay.
introducing our team. I know you are familiar with John. My name is Dr.
Yes.
Frida Mwamba Brazel. I'm based in Atlanta, and joining me is a board member. I will allow her to introduce herself. And then we've already sort of like got some information from you, so we'll go ahead and get started. I'm based in Atlanta, very much Zambian, been working with the Attorney General Alliance as well as, you know, background on this work that we are doing. So it's a pleasure to meet you. Chanda, over to you.
Yeah.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for joining the call. My name is Chandam Tales. I'm part of the ZLA Foundation, and I'm also in Atlanta. I'm originally from Mondola, and it's
Okay.
nice to meet you, and we're looking forward to working with you.
Same. It's nice to meet you on phone and look forward to working with you, more engagement with you.
Thank you. So I hope you can see my screen.
Yes, I'm able to see.
Okay. Our project is called Advancing the Role of Inclusive Participation in Countering Corruption to Dismantle Kleptocracy. This project is the first one we're starting. Mongu is hoping to be a blueprint so that we can extrapolate this across all the provinces of Zambia. What I want to
Okay.
do on this call is go through welcome introduction, give you some insights on project overview, objective, the timeline, then the metrics that need to be adjusted to some extent, risk mitigation strategies, communication strategy, and our next steps. We have presented this to several stakeholders already. We are remaining with yourself and the judiciary, as well as the Zambia police. Other than that, we have had very broad outreach of stakeholders. I will welcome you to this presentation. And as I'm walking through it, please feel free to stop and ask questions. This picture here depicts our organization. Our organization is called Zambians Promoting Leadership in America. This is our 10th year of being together. We are based in Atlanta. These are members that are volunteering to showcase Zambia in the diaspora. As you know, mostly in the diaspora, people know Nigeria, they know Kenya, they know South Africa. Some of our countries are more, they're less talked about. So our goal has to be being able to showcase Zambia in the diaspora, let others know about our country. We focus in on sustainable economic development in attracting investment. We also want to promote excellence across all sectors, as well as to showcase our culture. In this picture that was taken in September, we had a fundraising event for the youth for entrepreneurship. This is our ambassador, Chipamba Kanyama. And over here, I'm sure you
Okay.
recognize this lady, Miss Mulenga Kapwepwe, as well as others that came from Zambia. And these others are in states. We also have non-Americans as well as Americans on the board. So over this 10 years, we've been doing a lot of work around showcasing Zambia. We, as an organization, as a civil society organization, are the masterminds behind the Diaspora Conference that was held in Livingston. You may have heard about it, but that one was where our president came to it, as well as other ministers who I'm sure you can recognize. Our Bank of Zambia governor, Kalusha Walia, was there. We brought in all these different leaders from the diaspora to come to Livingston. At this event that was in July 2022, our president charged us and said that you really need to invest in your country. We took that seriously, but we also know that the reason why we don't get as much investment is because of corruption. Countries and or diaspora are typically disengaged because they're scared that even if they invest in Zambia, their money is going to get stolen, or it's difficult to invest in Zambia. So at this event, we realized that the fight against corruption cannot be done by the law enforcement agencies themselves, that we can leverage our youth. So from this event in July 2022, we went ahead and we had our first conference for the youth. This was in November 2022, about 5 months after the diaspora conference. We partnered with law enforcement agencies. So here at that point, you see Mr. Gilbert Perry, who was at that point head of ACC. You see Ms. Leah Tembo from FIC, as well as others. You see the Irish Embassy here. But more importantly, we were able to tap into the 10 provinces where we selected a minimum of 5 participants to come to this 3-day workshop. The 3-day workshop was to help them understand their role in fighting corruption, was to help them understand how they need to be patriotic, how they needed to understand that they own their mindset, how they needed to understand that it is their decisions that they can minimize derailers such as substance disorder abuse, JBV, mental health. So we were able to help them understand that they are the ones that have to be more engaged to support law enforcement agencies. On the 3rd day of the program, we were able to really highlight individuals that have been successful without engaging in corruption. From this event, we were able to touch the hearts and minds of these youth who went to their respective provinces to start increasing awareness as well as sensitization. To the extent possible, they partnered with ACC as well as law enforcement agencies, and with varied results. In Western Province, they have had great support from the law enforcement agents, and I want to applaud John, who is on this call, who has been very instrumental in not only leading the charge for all the youth in Zambia, but also leading the charge in Western Province. So it was very easy after we had hit almost 500,000 youth. We have more than 500,000 youth on our roster, that Western Province went ahead and planned for the agriculture shifting mindsets rally. At this rally, we exposed and selected youth that are interested in agriculture, and we told them there's future in agriculture, there's future in food. And over 1,500 of them came. They were marching, they were excited. They said, no, we have a role. We have an opportunity to really push forward. We want what's better lives for ourselves. We want a better life for our children. They saw that they have a big opportunity to push forward.
That's true.
Now, what has happened since then is we come out and formalized a team. I'm sorry, I don't know what happened to our picture here of our M&E person, but we have a team that is comprised of, we have Ambassador Sheila Siwela, we have others that are based in America as well as based on ground. We're partnering with YWA, and we're a project team of youth that are all under 35 that are helping lead the project for achieving this. Not only that, as you know, we in the diaspora, you heard Ms. Chanda and I were in the diaspora, we recognize that it's difficult for us to push forward if we do not have partners on ground. So we have partnered with YWA, who have also been doing work in Zambia. And as you know, in Western Province specifically, we have to pay homage to our Barotse Royal Establishment and get their support and buy-in, which we've been able to do. So even the BRE, they're on board. Here you see the Indunas, but you also see the youth leaders that came from all over the 10 provinces in Zambia that represented and were at this shifting mindset on agriculture, shifting mindset on fighting the corruption that is inherent within agriculture. We recognize that we can't just say, let's fight corruption. We found that it's much more impactful if we're able to bring it and include it into a sector. So with that said, here are project stakeholders. One that I will call out here are the churches. We have the U.S. Embassy because they're helping fund this project. We have the different ministries, and now we'll be happy to add the Ministry of Youth. We have
Yes.
working with Zambia Agency for People Living with Disabilities. The churches have been very much involved, saying, you know what, we have outreach to our youth group as well as women. We can help. And we also understand that even in the Bible, there's verses that talk about fighting corruption. So we've been able to spread across and have had amazing support from all our different stakeholders. Now, before I go into the project overview, I just want to pause so that I can answer any questions that you might have from the information that I've shared so far.
Okay. For now, that information, I think it took time to read most, so I kind of understand where I started from. But nevertheless, I think I will down as we will go
Thank you.
to answer questions.
Okay, thank you. So now we've spoken about where our background is, as well as how we have been able to garner support from all our critical stakeholders. Now I'm going to go through the project overview. As I mentioned to begin with, we want to advance the role of inclusive participation, inclusive meaning women, youth, and persons with disability, encountering corruption to dismantle kleptocracy. Kleptocracy is just another word for public resources. So when you start thinking about accountable governance in the utilization of public resources in agriculture, health, and education sectors in Mongu, Western Province. Why Mongu? Just as you know, grade 12, Mongu results were at the bottom. Just as you know, Mongu is one of the poorest provinces in Zambia. So if we are able to help in Mongu and Western Province, we know that we're going to impact the mean. We know that Zambia across the board will be impacted as a country. So what we are also aware of, CDF is what's given to each community for them to develop. And so we want that to develop, but we also know that corruption is what takes away from development. So we want to increase public awareness of this impact of corruption on people so that they can understand that if they allow corruption to continue, it's taking away from the development as well as it's taking away from their opportunities. We also know that there's an opportunity to help support the law enforcement agencies. Some of the law enforcement agencies, they may think that we're coming there on a witch hunt, but we also know that they're limited resources. So we're here to say that youth can also support you in identifying corruption, can help you in supporting you around you raising awareness in all rural areas and other sections. We also know that we want to strengthen institutional and local capacities to reducing corruption in sectors that are so important. You know, agriculture with food security, health as it relates to medicines, as well as access to supplies and mosquito nets, and then education. And I'll talk a little bit about education as we move forward. But this is what our overarching aspect is: countering corruption in Zambia, starting with Western Province. Now, let me go a little bit in terms of what our scope is, because we know we can't go after everything, and remembering that we are looking at public resources. So Constituency Development Fund, or CDF, that's important. Without that, we cannot get development. Money is needed to push forward. We also know that women have a role, youth have a role, and persons with disabilities or persons that are vulnerable also have a role in knowing what is rightfully theirs. So in agriculture, we are focusing in for purpose of this project on FISP, and we are looking at also education, free education. But what we've also recognized, as I mentioned, grade 12, they were at the bottom. We recognize as well that absenteeism is what is a big issue. Teachers don't get paid and they don't teach. They're away from their classes. So that's a space that we're trying to understand. And then with health, as I mentioned, mosquito nets, as well as just access to medicines or people selling medicine that is intended to be free. So these are the areas that we're focusing in as it relates to CDF fund. I want to now talk about the scope. Our scope is 150 direct beneficiaries. We have been working already to identify the specific wards that we are going to focus in on. The wards are Mulambwa, Katongo, and Kambule. And we also have a goal to hitting 250,000 or 250 indirect beneficiaries. 250 direct beneficiaries are going to be exposed to the interventions. We want to make them cheerleaders that will go out and impact another 250,000 as it relates to our project. 20% of this project is being funded by the US Embassy. The rest of it is being funded by ZLA. And most of it is really the time that is needed, as well as the interventions that will be used to support and create monitoring and evaluation metrics so that we can demonstrate social impact.
Okay.
Our capacity building, we intend to use all the media outlets, as well as other Loop, as well as FaceTime, the way that we're engaging with you, even though we are across the oceans, using WhatsApp as well as Zoom to share and push our project goals forward, as well as meet our objectives. From a timeline and metrics perspective, our timeline is that in January, February, March, we do a lot of the work. In April, we start wrapping it up, is what our goal is. If you look at this, right now, we are being challenged because it's difficult to get baseline information. I'll talk a little bit about that, about mitigation strategies. We know that if we don't have baseline information, it's going to be very hard for us to show the impact of this project. What's important for the US Embassy, as well as for any other donors, is to show that the work that we had and the interventions that we selected have had impact. Right now, we are having a challenge getting information on where we stand as it relates to the number of corrupt cases that are collected. And that is what we're talking about. When we look at key indicator metrics, this is what we're going to measure the success of this project. We want to ensure that we've increased public awareness of the impact of corruption. So things such as number of corruption cases reported to relevant authorities, posters, information that are placed at government institutions, number of corruption awareness campaigns conducted, number of corruption clubs and integrity committees formed. We've been able to forge forward and have come up with questionnaires to ask where this is. So I can even ask you, as you have been in Mongu, have you been aware of any awareness campaigns that were conducted for the public to understand what corruption is?
Okay. In terms of, let me say from government circles, we know that the integrated committee has been formed. I remember last year, people were being trained by anti-corruption in terms of integrated committees in order to help in that direction of fighting corruption in the systems. So in terms of the public awareness, I think in terms of public awareness campaigns, I think there's apart from the usual messages they send, but in terms of going down to the grassroots, I think there's much more that needs to be done.
Yeah, then thank you so much for that, because we were aware of the integrity committees that are formed within government, how effective they are. That is something that we'll find out. We were also have been communicated to that there have been no awareness campaigns conducted. And that's what we want to do, is to partner with ACC, because we cannot go out there and start talking about corruption awareness if ACC isn't sharing with the team how they want, what information needs to be shared with the public. So we're really looking at that partnership to help evolve and support them. Another key indicator around enhancing social and institutional accountability, it's the formal and informal institutions with accountability systems, intensified dialogues that are held, safe spaces that are created, because sometimes people are scared that if I report this, I'm going to get into problems. Number of complaints and response mechanisms, such as for suggestion boxes. People, are they complaining? Are they not complaining? So these are some of our key indicator metrics that we have. And then last but not least, for institutional and local capacities to reduce corruption in the sectors. We want to see how many of corrupt cases are adjudicated, number of people that trained in budget tracking, especially with CDF fund. You know, they've given a budget, how that money is disseminated, how it's tracked. We want to make sure that there's a tracking mechanism in place. So even looking today, we were caught in between, I believe there's voting for the new CDF committee and the ward committees that are going to be happening in the next few weeks. But even then, how have we tracked the money that was received last year? How are we going to track the money that's been received this year? And how are we involving youth in all these aspects? So here is number of people, young people trained in countering corruption practices, number of action plans that we have to develop. Risks and mitigation strategies. We are trying to manage these risks. So for example, outdated information and failing to verify accuracy can compromise project outcomes. Just as I've mentioned and asked you, have there been any current awareness campaigns? If we're not able to verify that, we may say that there isn't, and then ACC says, no, there was, and then they give us information. So we cannot get past the fact that we need this relevant information in order for us to move forward. We also know that we've been able to identify a lot of persons with disabilities. We are collaborating with churches. This one we've been able to manage because we have a list. We also know that in being aware that even in the rural areas, they may not understand English in the way as it relates to corruption. So being able to have translators that can help us communicate accurately. And then persons engaged in corruption, you know, this is where we're talking about it's institutional, right? People say that corruption is even within the law enforcement agencies. So we know that there may be challenges that are presented because the same people that are engaging may not want to share information about the project. And then obviously we also awareness of cholera, awareness of COVID and other factors that might compromise our dates that we have. Our communication strategy, just as we're speaking with you, we are really ensuring we have broad stakeholder engagement. We are giving regular updates every 2 weeks. We send out an update on what we have been able to do and what our challenges are. We are going to be having meeting workshops. We're utilizing social media when we're at a place to do so. And then we also have advocacy awareness campaigns, making sure that our community is giving us feedback as well as our stakeholders are giving us feedback, being able to continue building capacity and ensuring that we have M&E and that is going well. So next steps for us, we are continuing we've almost wrapped up our stakeholders actually. Like I mentioned, the last ones remaining are just with Judiciary, and they'll listen to this and then we'll come back and follow up with questions as well as the Zambia Police. We want to complete the current state analysis, which we cannot do this if we don't have accurate information from all the stakeholders. And then engaging the wards that have been selected are Mulambwa, Katongo, and Kambule. And this is based on what we understand are opportunities. And then from there, we'll be able to extend it to other wards. And then we want to have an in-person Mongu meeting towards the tail end of February after we have received current state analysis and after we have identified the 150 people. So I can say that that is it on our presentation on our project. I am now going to be open up for your questions, your feedback, as well as your insights.
Okay, I think from our end, yeah, from our end, I just want first of all to thank you for that presentation. It has really given me an indicator how, in terms of the scope of the project, which is a good thing for us, and the fact that it targets and builds a capacity among the youths is a plus for us. Then I've seen that you have indicated like the movement we had in November, where youths were looking forward to being emancipated through agriculture. I don't know what follow-up step we have taken for those that were identified that have shown interest in terms of agriculture, because yes, agriculture is the key and it can have a multiplier effect as long as we put the resources rightly and we identify more productive areas of our province where we can be able to place them if they are in terms of whichever agriculture sector they would want to go. So probably that one, maybe John will also bring me to speed to see how best we can collaborate here on the ground. Then in terms of awareness campaigns that you are conducting, as you know that this coming March we'll be celebrating Youth Day, and there are a number of events that we have lined up. One of them is actually touching on mental health issues for our youths, and there will be radio programs that are going on, and also educating them in terms of substance abuse. So we are partnering with the district so that we can find right resource, the information to our youths, and so that they can be brought back to at least the normal settings where they can be participate effectively in the communities. And in terms of CDF, I think it's key, yes, because we use women and disability that are participating, and what level are they really benefit of that is here to be followed up. I think that tracking has to be done so that we can have maximum benefit for the people that are accessing that service, the empowerment service through CDF. So for me, I think it's more for putting strengthening our working relationship. Since we have John in the ground, we'll sit down and analyze what you have presented to us, and then be able to provide some solutions, provide some feedback within a reasonable time frame.
Thank you so very much for your feedback. Let me touch on some of the mentions that you have come up with, and I appreciate your feedback. I'm also very much looking forward to a partnership with you. Before I give my response, or let me give my response, and then I'll ask my other fellow board members to join in. I do feel very much confident that we can collaborate together. You asked about the next steps for agriculture. Because all this work depends on funding, we had also approached the European Union. As you are aware, there are many organizations that have an interest in helping Zambia. However, as you're also aware, sometimes they're a little bit reluctant because they feel as though their resources are not returning the yield that they expected. And we're just being very honest here. So one group that has approached us, I'm sharing my screen. Can you see it?
Okay, youth employment and entrepreneurship, yes.
Yes, we've been approached by a group that are interested in starting with this program, and they're out of it's an international organization. They work in these countries, and what they're looking at doing is in Zambia, pushing forward with youth employment and entrepreneurship. We're going to be meeting with them on the 27th. And my suggestion, if you are open, after our initial meeting, we can assure them that we are working in partnership with the Ministry of Youth already in Mongu as another partner to push the agenda forward. And the reason being, we have over 1,500 youth that came to the rally. We didn't just randomly pick them up. We selected those that said, I want to do agriculture. So we have a good baseline. And so my response to you is, if you are okay with it, you can tell me that, yeah, Ministry of Youth is 100% supportive of this, so that when I tell them we've already created a stakeholder partnership for us to push forward in this.
Okay. Yeah, on our end, I think we are okay. But then, just formalize things. Maybe you can send us just a formal communication. So through
Absolutely.
that one, I can engage our local PSA, because certainly we are talking, we are on the same page. We want to encourage our youth. Those are especially that we have about 1,500 youths that have indicated interest in going into agriculture. That's for us a good positive, and then I'm sure even the provincial administration and ourselves will be glad to support that. But we would require
Yeah,
that
and
formal
they are
communication.
aware. We've been speaking with your DC, so the DC knows. We also, remember when I mentioned the stakeholder, this presentation that
Yes.
we just went through with you, we've done it with the minister, with the permanent secretary, the
Yes.
deputy permanent secretary, DC. They're all very
That's
much
good.
aware of this project. What I wanted to share with you is, because we're fighting corruption, that's right now what we have presented to them. The DC spoke at our event.
Yes, I
Yeah,
saw.
are you
I
aware of
watched
that?
that.
Huh?
Yes, I watched the clip.
Yeah. So they're aware of it. We just want to stay focused first, because there's intersection though, right? The US Embassy is helping us with this one. Then the other group that has come to us, they're interested in agriculture. But they also, like I mentioned, as you know, it's not like I'm saying anything that is not true. A lot of organizations, they want to see the results. That's why I kept saying monitoring, evaluation. They want to see impact. So we are assuring them we can support their interest by partnering with the Ministry of Youth as well as critical stakeholders. Even the Litunga, we had the blessing to meet the Litunga. The Litunga also recognized the number of junkies that are coming up in Western Province, and we have to figure out a way to addressing that. So remember when I mentioned absenteeism, that's one area that we can figure it out. What's the root cause behind that? And then secondly is, now how can we get into job creation for those that are interested?
That's true.
So that is where, that is where it comes to mental health. I applaud you on that. For CDF fund, let me ask you, as it relates to the Ministry of Youth and CDF funds, what are your current activities around understanding how the budget works, or reporting of the budget?
Okay. That one, because there's a component where they're able to access empowerments and the loans for the youths, women as well, and disabled. Then there's also a skills development component. But of course, there are some concerns in terms of the skills development. Our people have been slow in taking up the skills development.
Mm-hmm.
For the empowerment or in terms of loans, even for the youths, even from our history, when we give out loans, in terms of repayment, it's also been a challenge. So it's also needs, we may say there's also need to build capacity before we give them the loans, and also continuous monitoring, follow-up, so that we can give an on-spot back if it needs to be, but at least we avoid moral hazard in terms of, so that we can have the loans we're giving them should be impactful in terms of their lives. Should we both see, if you don't see the situation over and over being the same, it must be a change.
Mm-hmm.
So, but
Yeah,
it's open.
One thing that I will say is, at the upcoming event that we're having in Mongu, where we remember we said we're bringing 150.
Yes.
One of the metrics I think you saw is around reporting. We'll write a formal letter, but I just wanted to at least inform you that we would like representation from the Ministry of Youth to talk about budget, at least even if we don't cover the training, to tell them the resources where they can get trained. Because it's almost, if you ask yourself and even myself, how effective can anybody be if they're not been given training around how to manage a budget? So even if you have CDF fund, but you're giving people, but you're not telling them how to manage it, how effective is that going to be?
Yeah, it won't. I think there's that component, even if just financial retrace is we have to do a lot so that people as well, they know what to use the money for, and that money should have a return on them. Most likely we need to invest more in terms of building that capacity and just educating our people how to manage the resource. And then the M&D is very, very important.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we may not get the desired result that we will need.
Yeah.
Because that is an avenue where our people can come out of poverty, they can improve their income streams, as long as they invest in rightful projects for that matter. You can see, can have positive dividends for them.
Yeah. It's interesting as I'm thinking about it. So CDF fund right now, it's just you write an application, you do a request for what you're trying to work on. Obviously, there's a difference between grants and loans, right? But what's interesting is there anywhere where people are told, here's how to manage your money? Financial literacy within the scope of CDF funds. Is that part of it today?
On that one, I don't think so. In terms of financial literacy, that's where the missing link would be. That's why I'm talking about building that capacity to grow. Yes, people can have entrepreneurship skills and so on, but that's what includes part of it supposed to be financial literacy. But as we access the funds, you even know how you are utilizing your funds.
Yeah, you have to go through a training or webinar or something like that. So my question is now coming back to this upcoming March and Youth Day. You mentioned there's mental health issues. Is there any financial literacy in that Youth Day?
Unfortunately not, but it's something that we were trying to do through the youth career fair. But Mongu district, the one that's trying to organize that in our collaboration with us. So we're trying to see if we can bring in a few financial institutions, maybe to talk to the youths. That is if the program goes on, because that's on planning stage at the moment. I think they only had their first meeting yesterday as Mongo district. We had ours last week. So we just compare the notes, what they have agreed on. Because our main provincial celebration will be in Kalavo. So we are both doing Mongo and Kalavo. So there are some activities that we'll be doing in Mongo and some activities we'll be doing in Kalavo. But they supposed to have even where our youth will display, in terms of the entrepreneurs, will display some of the products they've been producing, what they've been doing, what they've been selling, and so on. So we are creating that space for them. And through that space, probably we can identify some of the maybe financials, or the financial gurus that can be able to give a talk to them. Yeah. But that will only be on a small scale. But then we need a more broader scale in order to reach out to more and more people in these districts.
What we're going to do as part of this project is come up with like some recommendations, but also some interventions. We had ABSA Bank in our rally, at our rally. We've got a relationship with Mongu ABSA Bank. However, we feel that as I'm speaking with you, remember that's why I said current state, understanding current state is so important. How does CDF, understanding the process of when the bank, when the central government says, here's the money for each province in the form of CDF fund, and they give it to each province. I don't know how the provinces receive it, where the people that are receiving it also have received some sort of like budget tracking training, how it's then passed on to the women, to the youth, to the person with disabilities, where and how that aspect of financial literacy and responsibility is taking place, I'm not sure. So when I'm saying that is to know that we cannot come up with recommendations if we don't know how it's happening today. And that's the importance of us knowing what is happening, what isn't happening. So let me ask you this very briefly. Do you know how the CDF rollout happens?
Okay, in terms of finances, it's budgeted just as like when the Minister of Finance and National Planning announced the budget, then we know each constituency will receive this same or equal amount. Let's say it's 30 million, so that would be the 30 million for each constituency. So it's given equally across the country. So it's within that, at ward level and so on, people are now encouraged to apply for the project that they want to take in. There are percentages, it says, for the youth and women. I'm not just putting the percentages, but they are according to percentages which goes to which you can access by the young people and the women, and people with disabilities are also encouraged to apply. It's based on that threshold that they're able to apply for those funds. But as to financial redress taking place before and after, I really cannot comment on that one because I've not seen it unless maybe it has started now. But I
You know,
can
it's
still get back
interesting.
more information.
No, it's interesting. You know, what's interesting, even what you just mentioned, that even you are not 100% clear on the percentage breakdown by segment, as well as,
No,
you know,
it's actually there. It's actually there. It's me just forgotten the actual percentage, but it's actually broken down equally.
Where can we find that
So
information? Because our team hasn't been able to find that information, the breakdown, and even like we've been trying to figure out, I haven't seen our team, maybe, I don't know who they're asking, but where can we get, is that public information, and where can we
that
find
one
it?
can be gotten from Minister of Local Government.
Okay.
I don't know if I've tried them because that was my
John, have we tried that? Because I've been
that's my previous ministry where I was working from. That's what I can get from the colleagues that have been dealing with that directly.
Can you please help us get that information? John, have we got that information?
No, but we haven't gotten that information. And like the PC is saying, yes, that is we can only obtain that at the local council.
Okay.
So that one we can get as well from provincial local government office here. We're working closely with them, so we can get that information. If it's not there, I'll be the first one to say it's not there. But I know there's a percentage allocated to the. I think there's that way.
Okay. So I've used up all your time. I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate the opportunity to continue working with you. Ms. Chanda, do you have any questions or any comments to share?
No, I just appreciate that he'll be, he's able to give us a little bit of insight of what he knows. And hopefully he can help us, get the information that we have not been able to obtain so that we can have that information on our report. And thank you so much for taking your time as well.
Thank you.
So, Mr. John, I think he'll get our phone number as well. But if you have any questions, you're on WhatsApp, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. And I really appreciate you. And the last thing is, if you're able to talk when we have decided on the date, just to share, whoever is the right person to share from Ministry of Youth perspective, the message towards the youth on how they are critical in raising awareness around corruption, reporting corruption, as well as their role in ensuring that we change the status quo, because the status quo as it is today isn't going to help us develop as a country.
Okay. No, I'll take for that. I'll be able to revert to you as soon as possible.
Thank you so very much. Have a wonderful rest of your afternoon.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay,
All right,
bye-bye.
bye.
Bye.